Hi everyone, welcome back. I am not a frequent rereader of books. That being said, every once in a while I come across a book that is so good or pulls me in such a unique way that I need to reread it. I narrowed this list down pretty significantly because I'm really trying to hone in on the ones that I could actually see myself rereading in the somewhat near future. First up is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This is an American classic. It's a retelling of Cain and Abel, and it's it's set in the 20th century, like early 20th century to mid 20th century, I believe, in California. And it's got like family rivalry, political commentary, and it's a lot of just like slice of daily life kind of writing. I absolutely loved this book the first time I read it, but it's been years and years and years, and I've essentially forgotten the entire thing. My older sister actually read it for the first time last year on my recommendation, and she was like bored out of her mind with that book. And I couldn't defend myself. I couldn't defend the book because I genuinely could not remember like anything about it other than I loved it. So I want to reread this one because her reading it like brought to mind for me how little I actually remember of the characters, the plot, the setting, all of that. And so I really want to reread this because I loved it so much the first time around. And I'm sure it's going to hold up today because it's a classic for a reason. And if I loved it the first time around, which is pretty rare for me with classics, then I'm pretty confident I will love it the second time as well. Number 2 on my list is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This book is really unique. The premise is super fun. So we're following Zachary, who picks up a book in his university library, I believe. And when he starts reading through it, one of the stories in the book is a story from his own life with him as the character. So that sends him on this quest to figure out what's going on with that. We've got magical worlds, we've got memorable, flawed characters that I adore, and we've got kind of an unraveling mystery alongside Zachary as he goes on this quest to try to save this ancient library. I read this as an audiobook. I listened to it as an audiobook, and it was phenomenal. I would highly recommend the audiobook. In fact, there are multiple different narrators, and the one who does the chapters that start with Zachary Ezra Rollins blank and then the chapter continues, the voice of that and the tone is so ingrained in my memory. I can like hear it to this day. Oh gosh, it's such a good audiobook. I would highly recommend that. But with such a like labyrinthine story, I know that there are parts and pieces and details that I missed because I did it as an audiobook. And that's nothing against audiobooks. That's how I do like at least a third of my reading, and I love it. But this book is so complex, so detailed, so like such rich characters and so many little like secret nuggets of information throughout the book that I feel like I missed those the first time around, or at the very least, I would be excited to experience those in written form and kind of remind myself of how masterfully written this book is. I'm so sure that I'm going to reread this in physical format. That a couple years ago, immediately after finishing the audiobook, I actually asked for a physical copy of it as a gift from my mother-in-law for my birthday that year, because I'm just 100% confident that I'm going to reread this book. Also, this author, Erin Morgenstern, has only published 2 books ever, The Starless Sea and The Night Circus, which I also absolutely love. The Starless Sea for me is just it's the one I read as an audiobook that I would like to read physically, and I like it just a tiny bit better than The Night Circus. But the sad part here is that I can't keep reading books by her if I only stick to new releases, because she only has those 2 books out and published. So I need to get my fix somehow for her immersive beautiful storytelling, and I want to dive back into the Starless Sea world so badly. Okay, next up, this one's actually a twofer, and you'll see why here in a second. So I'm talking about The Gates by John Connolly and The Lost Gate by Orson Scott Card. These are both YA fantasies, or maybe like magical realism. I'm gonna call them fantasy. Yeah, definitely fantasy. And they both follow kind of similar plots, similar characters, similar settings, and I cannot remember the difference. It's so embarrassing because I read both of these, and something about the titles being really similar, the characters being similar, the like overall premise being kind of similar between the two, I have completely lost track of what events happen in each one and which characters belong in which stories. So I want to reread both of these like back to back because I loved them both. They both hold a special place in my heart. I just feel like I need to re-differentiate between the two of them, and I don't know how to do that other than rereading, because I could look up summaries, synopses, whatever, but I've tried that and it's just not getting me anywhere. So I really want to reread both of these and kind of fall in love with them both and remind myself what belongs in which one. Number 4 on this list is Julia Hungry by Hannah Louise Poston. Some of you may know this, but in the olden days of my YouTube channel, I uploaded makeup related content to YouTube. And one of my favorite creators in the makeup and fashion space is Hannah Louise Poston. She is also a poet and a writer for her career. And she released in 2024 a book of prize-winning poetry called Julia Hungry. I am not typically a poetry reader, but I absolutely love the way that Hannah's mind works. And so I was really eager to pick up her book and read her poetry, and I really was blown away. I loved it. She also uploaded a video kind of explaining like how she approaches reading poetry and some background information on the inspiration for her poems in particular, and that really helped me as a reader who's not really familiar with poetry. So I really loved it. I read it immediately when it was published. I have reread a couple poems here and there, kind of just sporadically when I'm inspired to, but I've never sat down and done like a full reread and really kind of revisited the book as a whole, the collection as a whole. So I'm just eager to sit down with it and read it in a new phase of my life and from a different standpoint, and kind of take a little bit of time to digest those poems. Number 5 is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is part memoir about the author's experience in an abusive queer relationship, and then it's part essay, nonfiction, kind of analysis of the portrayal of queer relationships in media, data, pop culture, literature, all sorts of things. And it is such a unique and devastating read. The first time around, I was really just trying to absorb the structure of this book. Carmen Maria Machado uses sort of like common book tropes to move through the different chapters and to analyze her relationship and the broader discussion around queer relationships from various different like lenses and contexts. So I was just kind of trying to absorb the structure and like what she was doing there with those tropes the first time around. I was still really emotionally moved by this story as well, but I want to go back now that I understand what she was doing there structurally, and I want to focus more on the story itself. And on the essays and the data that she's bringing in to kind of analyze her own personal experience from a different perspective. So I've barely scratched the surface of it, I can just tell, and I would really love to revisit that book now that I feel like I've got my head wrapped around the structure of what she was going for there. And then last but not least, number 6 on this list is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of the story, the Greek myth or history of Achilles and Patroclus and the Trojan War. And this book made me absolutely bawl my eyes out the first time I read it. I was so hooked and I was so bought into the love story here. And even though I knew how this story progressed, I was still so moved, so emotional, and so like caught off guard by how hard it hit me by the end that can only be credited to Madeline Miller's phenomenal writing. Absolutely outstanding. Her writing is just like so smooth and beautiful, and then somehow still so like poignant and hard hitting at the same time. It's a really unique combination, and I loved experiencing that with a story that I thought I knew and thought I knew how I was going to feel about it. It just brought an entirely new perspective. It was truly a retelling done right, in my opinion. I have also read her short story Galatea. I have yet to read her book Circe. It's actually on my spring reading list, so I'm in the midst of my spring reading with March, April, and May. It's kind of part of that grouping of books for me, so I will read Circe soon. And then I just really learned that she released another short story called Mestra, and I am really excited to read both of those things I have not yet read by her. But then similar to Erin Morgenstern, she doesn't have a huge backlist. Those are her only books. And so in order to keep getting that unbelievable writing hit again and again, I'm gonna need to reread her books, which is no hardship because I am super eager to reread The Song of Achilles in particular. I would love to experience that again, and I will definitely start there when I do a reread of her books. So like I said, I'm not a huge rereader. I don't usually feel very compelled to pick something back up after I've read it, but these books in particular captured me in a way that makes me really eager to read them again for various reasons, as you've seen here today. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.